this is fun and this is cool, and I want other people to feel that too and have some fun with us as well.
SunGhosts, love, mystery, light and dark. We tend to see a lot of parallels.
That's Jake Brugman of The Good Wives and Nick Olas of SunGhosts out of context. Find out what that's about coming up. Welcome back to Stage Presence. Hi, I'm Josh Pineda, the curating editor at IndieBeat. In each episode, I'll be talking with music-minded people that make up indie and alternative culture. Join me as I piece together the cultural context behind innovative artistry and discover your next favorite artist along the way. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a jam-packed episode of Stage Presence. I'm Josh Pineda, your host for our first new music showcase. At IndieBeat, we always love featuring new music, and this episode we're introducing you to two bands who have a lot in common, though their sounds are a bit different. First, I talk with Nick Olas and Louis Estopinan, two members of the Miami-based band SunGhosts. Then I talk with Jake Brugman of Seattle's The Good Wives. That name might sound familiar because they're the band that provided us with our fantastic theme song, Keep It Coming. It kinda worked out in our favor that both bands are releasing music at this time because they have similar approaches in their artistry. They both have a fan-driven approach in marketing and producing music. They share this sort of back-to-rock sound emerging in the indie community right now, and they're both releasing their debut full-length album at this time. The self-titled debut by SunGhosts is out now, and Robot Island, the debut LP by The Good Wives, is out September 16th. Let's not waste any more time because we have two fantastic new interviews for you, including two brand new songs, Teaser by the SunGhosts and Lonely Again by The Good Wives. Let's start out with the album that is out now. SunGhosts have a great new record with fan-favorite tracks such as Till the City Goes Under, Poltergeist, Hydro Pump, but it also has some cerebral deep cuts that are some of my favorites, including Sunnyside Uppercut, My Shining Phantom, and Vibe Killin' Villains. It's a very warm and high-energy album with every layer perfectly thought out. It really sounds like a live album, but it's also so well produced. Here I am talking in a bit more detail about the captivating new album. So you guys just released your self-titled debut LP this week. It has 14 songs on it, and first of all, let me say it's incredible. I'm loving every song. It's very much a rock album, and you can sense all the influences from 70s punk and surf, sort of the 90s psychedelic. Yeah. It's also very much in the vein of today's music. I'm hearing like Group Love and Fiddler influences, but with your unique Miami vibe.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. What a compliment.
I love that.
Yeah, you guys have awesome music, and I mean, I've been a fan since I first heard it. So I kind of want to use this time to talk to you about the album process and sort of the story behind the album. You guys worked with Grammy Award-winning producer Joel Somayan, and I read somewhere that he tried to capture your energy by recording live sets instead of using tracking.
Yeah. Louis, you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, man. Wow, like, that was such a fun time doing that, and recording live. Like it's funny, like, I think that was, like, one of the first things that he told us, like, right before, like, you know, when we were, like, discussing about, like, you know, this album. And because he just loved the chemistry and, like, just, like, the tightness between all of us in the band. So, what we all agreed upon was to track, bass and drums together, like, just to get, like, you know, the solid ground.
That rhythm section.
The rhythm section, exactly. And then after you add the guitars later on, because the guitars are really technical. Like when it comes to all the effects, and I mean Nick could tell you like more details about all the effects they use like on every song and stuff. But you know, live tracking for sure, drum and bass was a success. Like especially with Jared and I, oh my goodness. We knocked down every song within like literally 3 days.
Just one whole weekend.
Yeah, you can really sense that groove and rhythm in there, and it's like very much central to the album. Can you guys like walk us through sort of more of the recording process? Like how long did it take you guys to do this?
Well, we met Orchard House Music last year when we were playing at a local 21 and older bar in South Miami called Bougainvilleas, like the the plan. And we were just playing one of our shows, playing an hour and a half to the crowd, and it was packed. And this record label was out there. They're an indie startup, so they were looking for their first band to start the record label. So we got together with them, and it was like magic. Everything came together at the right moment. And I showed them all the demos we had, and the producer / engineer / record label head came in to one of our rehearsals, and we played every single song for him. And he said, "All right, I booked these dates at the studio, and we're gonna have these dates to record all the drum and bass on the song. So if you have any other songs you want to write before then, go ahead and get them done ASAP, so we can get that, because after those days, that's it. There's no more bass and drums being recorded." So I remember I cranked out a song, Vibe Killing Villains, that I had stuck in my head for 2 years, and we worked at it in like the span of a couple weeks and got that song sounding fantastic.
And it's not like just like,
yeah,
it's not just like a quick, like, quick chords, like easy, like progression. It happened to be like the most difficult progressive song of the whole album. And we actually, and I learned it like within a couple of weeks, and that was a real challenge for sure.
That was a challenge,
recording that song.
Sure. You killed it though.
Yeah, you guys are really building on this album with the sort of experimental, exploratory, but still being very accessible. So yeah, I think your sound really does some of it sounds simple, but you can tell it's like really thought out and really complex.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the things we like to focus on. Like making it music that everyone can enjoy, any kind of person, but also if you are a musician or someone that really enjoys the complexities and pay attention to detail and stuff, you can actually see that a lot of work went into it. And not saying that a lot of pop music doesn't have a lot of work going into it, but just that a lot of those songs might be a little bit simpler. And you might see in like some of our chord progressions, there's a lot of jazz influence in there and a lot of harmonic minors like present in Egyptian music and like System of a Down, stuff like that. So. And
yeah, there's a song for everyone on the album. Really, it's really cool. Like to hear everyone's response. Like all of our fans love this song or they love that song. So I mean, it's a good thing we did a 14-track album, so you won't really upset anyone.
I mean, you don't usually see a 14-track album for an indie band. You usually see sort of topping out at 8, maybe 10. So you guys really did a great job with that. And how was this process different from your 2 previous EPs? Did you record the 2 previous ones DIY?
The first one was Phosphenes. That was when we first started. Within a couple months of getting together, I jumped on my laptop. I have Logic Pro, and I just recorded Till the City Goes Under, Teaser, and Dose. That's the nickname for Indecision Incision. And I got that cranked out on Logic, recorded the guitars in my room, used the programmed MIDI drums, tracked bass straight in, and just recorded on a microphone, and there it was. I popped it out into the world, and we put it on SoundCloud and Spotify and Apple Music all over the place, and that was what got us started so that we can start to make some buzz and start to get that music out there. But then the next EP, which came out December 29th of last year, was the first big release we did with Orchard House Music, where they worked on the first 4 songs with us. Because we were just planning on doing the first release as 14 songs, this album. But our manager, Christine, came up with the idea that we should have an EP come out because people had been already waiting since 2014 when we released our first EP. So we thought that was a good idea. We chose 4 songs that we knew would be in the album, but we decided to mix them and release them early so that people wouldn't be waiting another 6 months just to get all those songs. Yeah. So those 4 songs were done during this last year of the album session. So it all kind of went into each other and overlapped.
Yeah, I mean, when that album came out and I got the preview, it was really well done, and I mean, that carries over to this album. So is there something that you sort of took away with Joel's production skills that really made you sort of evolve more with SunGhosts?
I'm going to sidetrack just a little bit. I really like this synchronicity that's happening with this band because the name, first and foremost, SunGhosts, is all about duality. Sun, ghosts, love, mystery, light and dark, and we tend to see a lot of parallels and a lot of even splits and meeting halfway. So that being said, our music can range from very positive and uplifting and fast to slow and brooding and some dark stuff like you've seen in Vibe Killing Villain. So it's kind of on all sides of the spectrum. So when I got together with Joel and we started learning from each other, and I learned the kind of producer he was from his background, and he learned the kind of producer I was, and learning about the way I have the songs in my head, how I hear them. And we met halfway in the middle, because if it would have been all him producing it, then the songs would have come out a lot cleaner. And if I would have done it myself, it would have sounded like Phosphine, would have been a lot grittier, dirty, and audibly made in my garage, you know?
I actually did want to talk to you about that duality. I read that in a recent interview of yours, and I think that's captured well on this record. You sort of have the playful and wild side on one side, and then you have the sort of the deep and pensive thoughts on the other. And in Noonshine, you sing, "The only guide I have is the ghost of past ambition." And that's
yeah, you caught that.
Yeah, that was one of those lines that just hit me, and it was perfect. So can you tell us a bit about the themes and messages on this album?
Wow. You know, first and foremost, we didn't really have an idea for the album title other than it being self-titled as our first release, because since we started the band, the energy has just kind of exploded. I've been in a bunch of bands. All of us have been in many bands, but when we came together, there was a special kind of chemistry, and the music was right. Everything clicked, and my creativity was just coming out. I was just pouring out the songs, and we would be in practice, and someone would jam something, and we'd make that into a song. So we just started cranking these songs out. And there was this energy, this raw energy that didn't really have one meaning. It wasn't like, hey guys, we're going to write songs about this. I mean, I've always liked the concept of writing songs for other people to have like a soundtrack to their life, to help them through their problems, to pump them up when they need some kind of motivation, you know, things like that. But these songs just all came out. They kind of exploded. And so that's why self-titled just felt right for us. But each of the songs touched up on different things, from, you know, playfulness of having a good time, you know, sex here and there, flirtation. And then you have a lot more mature themes like Till the City Goes Under, where I talk about how I believe the Hispanic youth of Miami is stifled because their parents want their kids to study law, medicine, or business. They feel that America is a place where you make money, not where you know, pursue a dream like art, where you can't make money from that, you know? So there's that kind of stigma here. And that's something that growing up, I didn't have. Luckily, my dad is a musician and my mom is super open-minded. I got lucky in that regard. But all of my friends growing up, I've seen that, and I've seen a lot of like overprotectedness and stuff like that. So I felt strongly about that, and I wanted to make a statement piece about the city. And, you know, we love our city, but nobody knows your city better than the people that live in it. So it's still kind of like a punk album in some regards like that.
Like, I just found it like fascinating that, like, you know, we really didn't have like a set theme like to the album. So we just self-titled as SunGhosts. And like, when you hear the album, all of the songs, like, we wanted to just release all the songs. We didn't really plan for any of the songs like correlate to one another, but just the way how they are, like they somehow do. I would say, like, you know, half the album is light and half the album is dark. So it's just like that, like, duality theme that we didn't even plan, that just happened. So I mean, I think that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, you sort of touched on that by saying you want to write music to soundtrack people's lives. And I think that's sort of what that is, like, half light, half dark. No one's life is all happy and no one's life is all sad.
Exactly.
It's just sort of up and downs. And I think that's how your music really speaks. It's like very fun, very high energy, but I mean, it's very deep, like I mentioned. And I think that's what has helped you guys like rapidly rise. So even though you guys are backed by this startup indie label, Orchard House Records, you guys are still pursuing this sort of DIY route, and decided to sort of fund your tour, your 14-state tour, with an Indiegogo campaign. So can you sort of talk us through that process and what motivated you to take this sort of more fan-driven promotion process?
Well, man, the music starts and ends with the fans, because if the four of us just played music all the time and no one heard it, then we would just continue to play music for ourselves in a rehearsal space, you know? So it's really the people that hear something in the music that they align with, that speaks to them, and they take it personally upon themselves to want to listen to it more and spread it to other people because it makes them feel something, and that's all we're here for. We want to feel something in life. Well, when we first sat down and we had a meeting, which, by the way, Orchard House Music is just two people. It is Joel Somayan and Christine de la Huerta. So we've always done everything, the band members, the four of us ourselves, and we had help from our artist friend, Trooper, who lives in Orlando, and he does a fantastic job. But we've always done all the business stuff ourselves, and when we met Joel and Christine, they were able to help us out tremendously. And obviously Joel was able to record this fantastic album with us, and Christine has helped us along the way with management and booking and things like that. But we sat down and we said, okay, how are we going to pay for all of this? Like, we had a huge checklist of what are the things that we should do with an album, and now let's start scratching off things we know are unrealistic. We have to make sacrifices here and there. And we always had the idea of the crowdfunding campaign as we had it in the back pocket as a last resort, because when you start asking for things from people, then it starts to you're like exhausting your resources, especially from your fans. You do not want to exhaust your fans because they're the ones that are there for you. And if you do like a crowdfunding campaign like once every year, it's going to be like, oh, well, here are these guys asking for things again. We like to work hard and get gigs that pay us and sell a lot of merch, and that's our main income. But this tour definitely called for some support, and we didn't really have any sponsors or any big money ballers just dropping down $1 million like, hey, I believe in you guys, go out there, which would have been crazy. But so we just decided, hey, how about we take pre-orders for the album, and we let people know that if they would like to donate more money than the pre-order of the album, we'll just give them more perks. The more money they give us, the more merch we'll give them that's signed, the more cool things. And then we just had a meeting and sat down and said, okay, let's make this fun. What are some silly things that some people might enjoy, and depending on our likes and our interests, from customizing a skate deck because, we like to skateboard, to, doing a prank call session. Yeah. I think one person got that, so I guess we're gonna do that while we're on the road.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's so awesome.
Look out, Walmart. We might be prank calling you.
You guys also got 2 people to sign up for that record a cover. You guys know what covers you're doing yet?
Oh man.
We have like a plethora of covers though. We have like a good bank of covers, but I mean we learn songs quick, so I'm ready for that.
Yeah, the problem is, what if they choose something that's like really difficult? Because we always choose songs that are, that are written by bands that have a similar format to us. But if they do like an orchestral piece, then like, oh man, all right, I'm gonna have to sit down and just kind of rearrange the song. But hey, that's exactly what they paid for. So whatever they say.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm hearing that the 2 people, they're actually friends of mine. They put together a list, and they're like, all right, we have a list pending. We have a fake list of all terrible songs that you're going to be really, really unhappy to play. And then we're going to say, no, don't worry. This is the real list. So, and I know that Freebird is on that fake list because my
it's got to be.
He's a Freebird guy. Always at a concert. Freebird. I'm like, damn it, Daddy.
We'll
play Freebird if we have to.
I'll promote it. No problem.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Josh.
Well, I think that work hard and up for anything attitude is really what got you guys to like rapidly rise. I mean, you played South by Southwest. Yeah, so I think you guys are well on your way to sort of really getting there and really creating awesome music. And I wish you guys luck on this tour. Sort of one thing before I leave you guys. So we're going to play this song. It's called Teaser. So can you tell us a bit about it and how it fits into the album?
Definitely. It's actually one of the first songs that was written. Actually, I want to say it's the first SunGhosts song. No, second, because Car Commercial song I wrote when I was 17. My bad. Well, Teaser was the second SunGhosts song ever recorded. A couple months before I even started the band, I was playing this video game. Are you familiar with the BioShock series, Josh?
Yes.
It has that old, like, 1920s swing music and stuff like that. Well, I had just finished beating BioShock Infinite in 2013, and man, that storyline was so great, and I was so hyped up from the end of it that I just ran over to my acoustic guitar, and I wanted to play something in that old 1920s style. And I've always had a background in rockabilly. I always loved it. So I picked up the guitar and I just started playing those chords from Teaser. And over the span of the next couple of weeks, I wrote the lyrics. And it had nothing to do with the game. It was more of a feeling. I really liked that old style, and I wanted some kind of song that would be very different, make people want to dance, and just be about flirtation. Just, that feeling you get when you see somebody and your eyes lock and you're like, oh man, like now you're dancing on your toes and you're excited to make some moves and stuff, That song, when I first met the band and we started jamming together, that was one of the two songs. It was that song and Incision that I showed them, saying, hey, I wrote these songs a couple months ago. I think these would fit with this band. And so when we released that version with Phosphines, people just really, really liked that song. And I think it's more of an energy thing. That's just a happy-go-lucky kind of SunGhosts attitude in there. It's not really something I can describe with words too well, but there's definitely a vibe there that is special. And I think that's why we want people to hear it so much.
Yeah, and that special vibe, I mean, you talked a bit about it before on IndieBeat. I asked you guys, what is your dream collaboration? And before you said you wanted to do with a lovely miss in sort of the styles of 50s old school vocals and some grit. So yeah, I think that sort of, it's deep in your sound. It's not necessarily something you think of at the beginning, but it's once you have that thought, it's like you can totally tell that sort of rockabilly and sort of old school attitude in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of retro in there. I like that a lot.
Well, thanks, guys. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you. This is really nice, man, to hear your voice and connect on this album. Glad you're enjoying all the songs.
And I hope the rest of the listeners will also enjoy this as well.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure they will. You guys are one of the fan favorites here on IndieBeat. And now take a listen to some new music by SunGhosts. It's their latest single called Teaser. Check it out.
Such a tease. I'll get you in that moment when the planets are aligned. You should heed my omen, 'cause baby I'ma make you mine. Oh, you want it all, you got it all. I wanna climb that goddamn wall. Oh, well I'll be damned, you hit it well. I'm gonna practice all my spells on you. To see you tempt me with your taunting, and that is such a tease. I'll get you in that moment when the planets are aligned. You should heed my omen, 'cause baby I'ma make you mine. Oh, you want it all, you got it all. I wanna climb that goddamn wall. Oh, well I'll be there, you hit it well. I'm gonna practice all my spells on you.
What a great song. It's called Teaser off of the debut self-titled LP by SunGhosts. It's out now wherever you stream or buy your music. You can really sense those rockabilly influences that Nick was talking about, and the rest of the album is that fantastic. And now from Florida, we go to Washington. I talk with Jake Brugman of Seattle-based The Good Wives. As I mentioned, they provided us with our great theme song, Keep It Coming. It's off their forthcoming debut LP, Robot Island, out September 16th. It's an invigorating album. You can read my full high praise review on IndieBeatMusic.com, but to give you a sense of what the record is about, it's very cerebral and cathartic with its amazing guitar elements. It captures an authentic internal monologue with relatable hope, intense stream of consciousness, and an introverted mindset. I started my conversation with Jake by me asking him how he got his start in music and how he formulated The Good Wives.
For me, I started playing drums when I was 16, and I played in really bad hard rock bands, like nu metal type stuff when I was a teenager in my small town that I grew up in. And then when I moved to college, I started playing drums for a little bit with Neil Harris, who we've collaborated with a few times, and then kind of just started writing my own songs after that. And then did just solo stuff for a few years until I think I met Nick, one of the guitar players in the band, in 2009. And we started playing music together then. And just kind of, started doing more stuff with my songs, and then added in Shane and just went from there.
So, as you mentioned, you collaborate frequently with Neil Ryan Harris. So can you talk a bit more about that process before The Good Wives and how he helps you guys out now?
Yeah, so Neil and I started playing music together because we lived in the same dorm at Eastern Washington University. I'd read an article about him playing some Elliott Smith songs on campus, and I was into Elliott Smith, so started talking to him, and we bonded over music right then, and started playing together. And as I started writing my own songs, he was also writing his own and just bouncing them off each other when nobody else really cared. And having somebody else that'll actually listen to your stuff when you're first starting out kind of helped us learn how to communicate and collaborate musically. And as the bands become more involved, he's just kind of been there to offer support in any way that he ever can. I really love the music that he does and the production that he does and all the mixing stuff that he's doing now. And it's kind of a great way to involve him in some of our stuff by having him doing remixes or doing mixing on some of the cover songs and stuff like that. Just kind of a cool way to just stay involved. And then always having him to kind of bounce ideas off of, help me develop as an artist as well, and keep me motivated and challenged has been really cool.
Right, and I think that sort of collaboration you guys have going is a real good partnership, and I think it really does well to sort of bounce ideas off. It's a different sound, but it's also it meshes well, so I think it's great. Going back to The Good Wives, so how did you guys sort of start to take form into a four-piece? It started as your solo project, correct?
Yeah. So it started, just by myself, and then I added in Shane and Nick, and we were all kind of, I think, a little bit stubborn, but maybe also a little bit insecure as artists, so we kind of didn't really want to involve outside voices, and so we kind of stuck with that for a while. And then when we recorded the second EP that we did, we had someone come in and play drums with us. Our buddy Michael from Telekinesis offered out to play drums for us on that EP. And we realized how much better it made our ideas to be working with somebody in that capacity. And even how that was after the songs had been written, it kind of just helped us develop more ideas. And so we decided that if we were going to continue to do it, we needed to bring in that role as well, and then kind of change the dynamics of what we were all doing to make sure that we were making the most of it. And that's when we found Brent Nelson, who's our current drummer. Since then, it's allowed us to kind of do what I think all of us really wanted to do with music instead of kind of just playing to our own limitations. So it's been really great for our own growth.
Yeah, so you talked about dynamics. Can you tell us a bit more about what the dynamics of the band are? Is it fully collaborative, or do you take most of the songwriting role? Yeah,
so I write the lyrics and the basics of the song structure, and whatever instrument I'm playing on that track, I'll write that part first, and then I'll demo it and take it to the guys, and then they'll write all their own stuff, and we'll work on the arrangement and making sure that everything feels right together from there. But I'll do the beginning portions by myself. So it's still pretty collaborative. It just I do the principal part of it.
Right. It sort of starts like your career arc. Like it started as your solo project, but it's really like it takes form as the band. And I think that's really great in that aspect. And I think that's sort of kind of how I see a lot of indie artists working nowadays. It sort of starts with one songwriter, but it really takes form with the rest of the band's collaboration. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just also understanding my own limitations, like getting other ideas and getting other people to have their voice and input, I think helps to get the most out of material for sure.
The Good Wives are based out of Seattle, so can you tell us a bit about the music scene there and how that has inspired your sound?
I mean, the scene here is great. Like everybody, it's a really cool city to be playing in because there's a ton of venues and there's a ton of festivals. I mean, everybody plays music, it seems like, or at least that I know. And it's a really supportive area as well. As far as sound, I don't know how much we draw from the region. I'm sure we do in ways that we don't realize, but I don't think it's ever been something that at least I've looked at consciously of trying to like fit into a certain genre or niche in the city sound or anything like that. I think it's pretty diverse, but it's a cool place to play music, that's for sure. And a lot of opportunity here if you're willing to put in the effort and be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think that diverse nature, I think that also takes form in sort of your sound. I mean, as I mentioned on IndieBeat, you guys have a sort of unconsciously sort of absorbed sort of this history of rock in this album. More of a survey of rock into sort of forming your own sound. And I kind of want to talk about that a bit. In earlier descriptions of your sound, the Good Wives gets sort of pinned to folk rock, and I found that interesting since it's a lot more guitar-based than folk rock usually is. But you also used to go by descriptions of misanthropic and urban cynicism, and now you go by this neon vibe. So can you tell us how that all relates and sort of what neon vibe is?
Yeah, I mean, the folk stuff I think just comes from the fact that we were starting with like my bedroom material, which was just more acoustic guitar based. And so just kind of, I think we were writing descriptors based off of that before we really developed the sound as a band or collective. And definitely a lot of cynicism in our sound and in our or at least my writing. I'm sure that's carried over and is still a little bit persistent. And then with the neon vibe stuff, just kind of with writing this record is it really like I kept telling the guys like things that I want it to feel like, you know, where you're sensing more stuff than just music, like to visualize color and stuff when you are playing your parts to make it, you know, feel atmospheric and like it has its own experience to it, and the music has kind of its own world. And then we were just kind of throwing around different ways to describe what that meant to us, and that's kind of when we arrived at Neon Vibe. And plus, it's fun to say.
It is. I like it. It definitely a term that I like appreciate, and I think it's sort of people usually think neon vibe would go more towards the new wave stuff and sort of more of the electropop, but I think it does fit into your sort of sound because you are visually based. You speak about visual color, and I'm wondering, does that have anything to do with synesthesia? Does anyone in the group have that skill?
As far as like colors and stuff,
like hearing music. Sound and sound and color.
That's kind of how I it works for me. Like I think in shades and colors a lot when I'm writing. So like that's usually
awesome.
where it starts from. So like I usually have like a color palette that I'm trying to work with when I start a new song and think in that type of terms musically.
That actually gets into something that I want to talk about. I wanted to focus a lot on visuals because I feel like Good Wives do have this very defined visual aesthetic. And I want to start with the merch aspect of that, and then we'll get into more of the visual stuff of the albums. But you guys do unique stuff with merch and sort of this DIY aspect of merch, but really more of engaging fans with it. You have bandanas, bookmarks, shirts, bracelets, made a cassette for the Capitol Hill Block Party. You have these super cool bottle cap pins and the best lip balm ever.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, my aunt is really great at all that stuff and really supportive, and things started getting a little bit busier for us. And it was just too hard to be printing t-shirts and doing all the other stuff. She kind of offered to pick stuff up, and it's great because she has the ability and the resources to figure it all out. So I kind of just throw ideas out to her that I think are interesting. She's able to make them happen. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to be able to do it without having to necessarily learn how to do it all. And a great resource. And it's fun too because we do everything in kind of short runs. So it's there for a couple of shows and then it's gone, and either you got that or you get something new that's going to come up. Like, we don't do a lot of repetition of anything, which is awesome. And that'll be doable for a while, but it's fun while we're able to have that kind of that freedom to just kind of pump out ideas and try new things.
Right, and I mean, like, you mentioned that you sort of throw out ideas and your aunt sort of takes them and runs with them. So can you talk a bit about that process? Like, where did that idea with Chapstick come from?
Well, it started because a while back we used to have a joke that we'd sell kisses for $0.25 at our merch booth. And so we did that for a while, like have just a little kissing booth at the merch table just for something to do that would be, a little bit more fun or silly or whatever. And so that idea kind of came off of that, where that would play off of it. And then I didn't know how to make chapstick. I didn't do any of that, so it just never went anywhere. And then when my aunt picked up stuff, I was like, oh, I had this idea a long time ago, and even how we don't do this anymore, like, this would be fun to have to sell. And so
right, and I mean, she's great at like those flavors. They're both great, and I mean, she makes it, right?
Yeah, she makes it all from scratch.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so luscious. It's very cool. I mentioned all the different types of merch you had in the past. Are you developing anything right now?
Right now it's just kind of getting stuff ready for album release stuff. So just trying to see what we can do with maybe getting some shirts printed up, getting physical copies of the record. So that's kind of stolen the attention. I would like to do more, but I'm not really sure. I feel like there's a couple ideas that we need to refine first before we develop them to spending money. But we are doing another cassette run with my aunt for the full length that we're just going to do as promo and hand them out, street team style to people on the streets, and see if we can't share our music with some new people.
Awesome, that's great. I mean, that sort of vibe, that street team vibe, is very much sort of what I get from you guys. You guys have that sort of genuine sort of vibe with you, but you also have this very, like, everything seems planned out in an authentic way, just like your music. So I think that really works with that too. And that kind of brings us back into what I want to talk about with visuals. So let's start with the Good Wives logo. So this has been sort of a common theme. So can you talk a bit about the visual aesthetic of that?
We started doing the EKG because we did the photo shoot that we ended up using the picture of me on the cover of that second EP with the EKG in there, which we didn't shoot for that intentionally. Nick just really liked it, and I kind of protested. I didn't really want my picture on the cover, but he made it look cool, so we went with it. But after having the EKG in there, we decided that we carry that aesthetic over, and then just developed it as we kind of developed our own sound and visual representations we've gone along. The current iteration, my uncle kind of refined that, and he helps a little with the merch stuff with my aunt as well. And he put together the more refined one, but it's just been something that it just felt like it kind of represented what we do as a band, like kind of just, I don't know, it just feels right for us.
Right, sort of the will to live and sort of the existential vibe you guys have in your very refined guitar music, and I think it does work well. And sort of, I wanted to also talk to you about sort of the name of the band. I've been doing some research and I didn't find much about that. So can you sort of tell us the story behind coming up with that name?
Yeah, so I used to go by the name of Cowboy and Rooster when I first started doing like the just acoustic stuff. And I took that name from a short story that a friend had written, and then he and I no longer were friends, so I decided I should probably change my name. And I was really into a Cat Power record that I got at a library when I was living in Phoenix, and I really liked the song Good Woman a lot, and I was just into that, and I kept listening to that song, and I thought that sounded close to a band name, but not quite right, a little bit too like it was trying to be something specific, and then just stumbled into the Good Wives, and it sounded like a band name, so I decided I'd use it.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of attention to sort of influences is very much present in your music, and I think that worked well. Let's get into some of the music and the covers. Let's start sort of at the beginning with Everything I Know EP. And that sort of visual aesthetic I found really interesting, sort of like you standing amidst the glow of city lights at dusk, and it has this sort of zine-type design with a flat, matte texture. You talked about having a color palette with every sort of song and album you write. So can you talk us through that EP?
Yeah. Well, with that cover specifically, that was Nick's vision. Using the background, the city art was by his brother Matt Alexander, and then the photograph of me was by Casey Cosley. Just to give credit to everybody real quick. And Nick put that together, but it was just kind of us, like with that EP, like we started most of the songs. So I three of those tracks were ones that still were carried over from things that I had written before the guys joined. And then Never Speak Again and Here on the Story were really the first two where all three of us kind of had found out how to really write together and develop stuff together. And with those two songs, like we kind of had talked how they had a different feel and started to have more distinction and kind of played to what we felt was a little bit more city and a little bit less rural type sound. And we kind of just wanted to start representing that as we were developing. Like we thought that if we had the visuals represent what we're trying to accomplish with the sounds, the better we'd have like a unified vision. So just kind of developed it off of that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where the urban cynicism takes a hold of your sound, and I think that sort of develops throughout. And I mean, then you take for the next EP, and sort of also with the cover of the Blondie cover of Heart of Glass, sort of takes shape with the geometric crystal-like design and People, Bicycles for Humans to Ride. You sort of get that in a drawing, but in the Heart of Glass cover, you get it sort of a more 70s type design. So can you talk us through that sort of artwork?
Yeah, that art, Neil's the one that put that together. And so the image was taken from Beeple, that I follow him on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and Neil's used some of his artwork for some of his projects and turned me on to him. And when we were collaborating on that, Neil brought a few of the images from his feed, and we decided we liked that one, and then Neil did the lettering and all of that for it. But it just kind of felt like it kind of matched Neil's synth part, and that just kind of has it feels visually similar to what the cover is to me, and just kind of this I don't know, it's kind of spacey, but it's still it still has some edge to it.
It also kind of gets carried into Robot Island's visuals with the sort of geometric background in the logo that merges into the red sort of background behind the actual robot. So let's talk a bit about that one. As I mentioned, it's a robot with an island on its head, very much in tune with the music, sort of like cerebral and cathartic, but also this sort of alienation, but also sentient sort of vibe. So can you talk a bit about the color palette?
Yeah, so I mean, those colors, like the reds and the pinks and the purples, have been pretty prominent with us since we really started to try and get more visually representative. But I think that it's because those are just colors that we all like. And then they feel good, and then you can soften them up, and that feels good with kind of the more ethereal type stuff that we try and do, atmospherically with some of our sounds. So I think that's where the colors kind of come from, is we just are starting to get a little bit of the same page, everybody in the band, for what we like and how we like to represent it. Which we're doing with some of our stage lighting and stuff. Like Brent's added some lights to his drums, and they're all in that similar kind of faded, nostalgic color palette, which I think kind of goes with our sound, which is a little bit faded and nostalgic in a lot of ways. And with that cover art, Brent he also works on comic books, and one of his friends that he's worked with for some of the artwork on his books, Genevieve St. Charles Monet, do the artwork for us. And so just kind of based off of a lot of his cues and what he was interested in, we kind of let him head this one up. And with their collaboration, this is where they arrived. And then Brett Hagerine helped out with the lettering and kind of helping to develop some of the look too, with the way that the logo works on it and that grid at the top. But really came together pretty cool. And Brent headed that one up and just kind of try to find the feel of the album for us.
Great. So can we talk a bit about the title of the album, Robot Island, and how that ties into the sort of the feeling of this album?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really anything super intentional about the title itself, but I think it fits. Brent said it once during practice, and we all thought it was kind of funny and decided that it should be an album title. But I think it really works. Like, there's definitely a bit of isolation and feeling a little bit alienated or, apart from other people, maybe a little bit shut off sometimes or mechanical that I think appears in some of the themes in the album. So it just, when he said it, like it felt right for the record, like kind of just the frustration, and but also like a hopefulness and all that I think kind of is in the record.
Yeah, that's definitely in there. I mean, and it sort of hits the nail on the head on feeling that I got from it. In my review, like I mentioned, I sort of put the record on while I was feeling sort of angsty and sort of frustrated, and that sort of vibe of alienation but hope is very much present in the album, and I think it's fantastic. So yeah, so can you tell us a bit more about the themes of this album? Sort of what we sort of touched on it with the frustration and hopeful aspect, but
Yeah, like I mean, I always try and write in a way that I just think kind of is a way to kind of connect my own struggles or whatever I'm going through, like try and put it in a way that I think is relatable rather than being like overly specific. And so when I started writing this, like it was right when we kind of transitioned in the band and we're going in a different direction. It's where I stopped playing acoustic guitar and started playing electric. And when we made that switch, I think all of us were just kind of not interested in what we were doing at the time. So there was a lot of just natural like restlessness and frustration in the band when I started writing material for the new record. I just kind of wanted to take all of that and put it into feelings of like kind of how it feels to just be in this situation where you really, really care about something, but it also is difficult and frustrating, but it's all of that because it matters to you. I wanted to find ways to just express that and make it to where it was shareable and less isolating, and just connect, I guess, with just understanding that it's okay for stuff to be hard and frustrating, and to just keep pushing through sometimes because it's worth it.
yeah, and I think it is worth it. I think that sort of aspect of pushing forward is very much there. And I think it gets developed through these different sounding songs. As I mentioned, it's sort of a survey of different influences of rock, but it's very much innovative and it's back to rock. Like we're getting back to rock in sort of the indie community, and that's sort of driving against the sort of mainstream 80s music that's happening right now. So I think you guys are really doing a lot of that in this album.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's always been something I've really wanted to do. Like, I never really wanted to have to just be stuck playing like a certain genre, or a certain style of music, and just kind of have the freedom to like develop enough of a sound where you can kind of play whatever you want to. Thankfully, the other guys in the band are into that too. But I think it helps that all of us kind of listen to different things, and also, you just now we're at that age where like the stuff that we were into when we were in like late teens, early 20s, like that's becoming popular again now because we're getting older and that stuff always cycles back around. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's a nice way to just be like, yeah, this is stuff that we were into, and it kind of has still like it's, I think it feels like it belongs right now because of that, but it's still not necessarily like with everything that's currently going on. Like it has a bit of nostalgia to it, I think.
Right, and I think it's sort of a personal nostalgia that's on the edge of what's happening. It's getting, like you mentioned, the nostalgia's there, like we're getting back into the 90s. So I think it's just great that sort of, this type of music is really what's getting out there right now, and I think it'll serve you guys well as you sort of move forward and start writing more and start like releasing this album in 3 weeks. All right, so can we talk a little bit more about the recording process of this record? We talked a bit about sort of the creative process and sort of starting to write it. Did you guys record this one in a studio, or did you guys do a bedroom-type recording session?
Yeah, Nick owns and operates a studio. So
Okay.
he engineered and tracked the record for us and then all the mixing as well, which is great to have that resource and be able to do that in-house. So it's in the same place that we use for our rehearsal area too. So yeah, just once we were ready to go, set up and did all of that.
Can you talk us a bit through your performance creative process, sort of how you translate what you're doing in the record into sort of your performances? You recently played the Capitol Hill Block Party. So can you sort of tell us about the process and what playing that festival is like?
Yeah, like as far as like what we try and do on stage is, I mean, really, we just want to, like, music's fun. Like, we want to share that and that we enjoy it with, as many people as we can. So, just focusing on enjoying ourselves on stage and trying to make that something to also to come see, rather than just hear the songs. And as we get more opportunity and more budget and all that stuff, we're trying to add more things, like adding lights to the stage and all of that. So trying to make the show itself like an event outside of the music, and have all of it, to try and make it special, and not just going and watching a band play at a club or something, make it feel like a thing. So that's like what we're trying to accomplish with our shows right now. As far as playing Capitol Block Party, that was super cool. Like that's our first time playing a festival. If you're gonna play at your first festival, like that's a really cool festival to play, and just a cool event. Like mostly local bands, and working with the venues that we work with throughout the year, and getting to work on that scale, and everybody getting to get exposure to a larger audience for a weekend. Just a really cool thing, and it's really cool to be part of a city where we have those type of opportunities to get to play at a festival where there's major acts like churches and Odessa, and we can still be a part of it. Like that's really special.
That sort of performance vibe also gets translated into the music videos you guys are releasing for the singles off this album. So how did that sort of come about, doing your music videos in venue in a sort of performance aspect?
Yeah, well, we all knew that being that it was our first video, we needed to be kind of realistic with what we thought we could accomplish. So we wanted to do a performance video. Plus, that's kind of what we all really liked in videos growing up, is to see, what the band looks like, when they're playing music. And so we were able to be fortunate enough to use the Crocodile Cafe in Seattle. They let us use the venue to shoot the video, and just donated that to us, which was great. A huge advantage for us in keeping our budget low and being able to do as much for as little as we could. And then our friend Tony Hoffman produced and filmed all of it for us just as a favor, because he's a really good guy and he's really talented. And Alyssa Million did the lighting for us, and she's also really great at what she does, and she works a lot with, I don't know if you're familiar, they're kind of getting huge up here, but Thunder Pussy, she works with them a lot, and so she helped us out with lighting. And then our friend Anthony Reich did the on-site audio for us. So we just kind of had friends that are really talented offer to pitch in, and so we just kind of did the most that we could with that, and decided for our first video that we just wanted to kind of represent what we are, and just, put some performance out there.
Is that sort of friendly vibe inherent in the scene there, or is there something else that's helping out?
Well, I mean, it's kind of there in the scene, but also, I mean, just being honest, like I'm a huge dork about all this stuff, and I think all the other guys are too, and so like it's just really cool to have people starting to care and want to participate, and we're just genuine and being excited about it, which I think makes other people excited about it, because they can feel that like this is cool for us, and we're not trying to pretend like it's not. Like it's really fun. Like this is something we've worked hard at and dreamed about our entire lives, and we get to play a festival, or we get a somebody's writing about our music, or we got to shoot a music video. Like that's really awesome stuff that we would pretend like we would someday get to do, and we're getting to do it. And so I think just trying to be genuine and sharing that this is fun and this is cool, and I want other people to feel that too and have some fun with us as well, and recognize that they're a part of why we're able to get these opportunities, and that they should take some ownership of what we accomplish as well, because we get a lot of help from our social groups, between coming out to shows, or all the photography that we get from Casey and Tony, or the videos that friends just do because they're a part of this as well.
Yeah, and that sort of fun, fan-driven, friendly vibe is great. I think that sort of is in your sort of character as a songwriter too. I think you're very approachable, very genuine, and I think that sort of serves you well in sort of getting this personal and more relatable type angst into the music. So I think you're well on your way into Rapidly Rising, and that's sort of the type of vibe we like to feature at IndieBeat. So I'm glad that we get to sort of support you on that.
Thank you. It's been great to have you involved, and I don't know. All this is fun. Like this is really cool to get to do this, and it's great when we get to do like the cover stuff with you. Like it's just it's been excellent.
I'm glad to be able to support your music. It's fantastic. What's next for you, both personally and as an artist?
I mean, right now with the record coming out, like a lot of the focus is just trying to see what we can do with that. I'm not really sure beyond just trying to get that out, because that's so much work right now. But pretty soon gonna be starting to write new material. I've been picking up some new gear, some new electronics, and some new keyboard options and some MIDI stuff. And pretty soon here, once the records come out, I'll start working on some new sounds and new materials. But I'm just really excited to start writing some new stuff and seeing what kind of new sounds I can get going to try and develop our sound a little bit more.
They do have that really cool record and are bound to reach their goals with this great new music they have out in September. And with that, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank SunGhosts and the Good Wives for being amazing guests on the first new music showcase here on Stage Presence. If you want to stay up to date with either of those bands or buy their music, visit their website. SunGhosts are at sunghosts.com and the Good Wives are at thegoodwives.com. If you want to stay up to date on Stage Presence, you can visit us at indiebeatmusic.com and click the podcast tab. We have 2 episodes on there with Jess Mayuga and Hank Weedle. They're fantastic, so catch up now. Follow us on social. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and Facebook at IndieBeat Music. Thanks once again, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time. And now to play us out, here are the Good Wives with Lonely Again.
Our superstitions, like they knew anything, like they knew anything. They misunderstood, thought that they knew better, like they knew anything, like they knew anything. side.